Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the True Potential Do More with Your Money podcast. It is episode number 52 on Friday, the 22nd of January. Today, we're going to be talking about the new United States President, Joe Biden, and what it means for our investors, what it means for global markets. So, joined today by Peter Bold, by Chris Leyland, and by David Harrison. So, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning, Daniel.
Hope everyone's well. So, and you've been following the inauguration on the TV, catching up, seeing all of the glamour, the fireworks and the shenanigans that goes on there. Before we get into that, I think, Chris, it's been, I was just speaking here on the prelims there. It's been another good week for markets. It's been a good month. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's completely right. I think if you look over this week, the key stock markets that have done well are China and the US. When we look at China, they released the GDP data on Monday, and China actually grew as an economy in 2020. So it grew 2.3%, which is actually pretty phenomenal when you think about what we've been through in 2020. And that's been very positive. So Chinese stock market was up around about 2%. Hong Kong was up around about 5%. If we look at the US, very positive on the back of the inauguration. The reality is US was up probably about 1.6% over the week. The NASDAQ, so the more technology-focused index, was up around about 3%. And all of that is on the back of the potential for more stimulus to come through, and that stimulus to come through at a faster pace overall. I think what is interesting is, a lot of people have been saying, well, no, these US tech companies, the price for perfection, they're exceptionally overvalued, they can't go any further. But you had Netflix came out with their results on Monday. So they added 8 million subscribers, and that compares to 6.5 million that was expected. So they smashed the target. And Netflix was up 12% in after hours trading on Monday, which is pretty incredible. And then just maybe the last thing is, I guess, just thinking about the UK. The UK's had a phenomenal start to the month. What you've seen is with the trade deal having been signed, you're seeing that more international fund managers are starting to show interest there. But I think the other thing that's come through as well is actually the UK is one of the areas that is leading the way in the numbers of people that have been inoculated. So you're seeing that come through in sterling. So if you look at the cross sterling US dollar, it reached 137.4, which was actually the highest level it's been in over 2 years, which again is still quite a low level when you think about that compared to history. But you're seeing more positivity around sterling due to that vaccine rollout. And maybe, I guess, a little bit of negativity around the dollar in the sense that the dollar's a safe haven. And what you're seeing is investors looking through lockdowns, investors looking through any sort of short-term weakness and looking forward to actually what is a positive outlook. We have the vaccine in the background. Well, not even the vaccine, we have the vaccines in the background, and there's more and more vaccines that are coming online. And we've got support from governments, from central banks, and we've got that stimulus that will come through. So overall, maybe I'm being a little bit too positive here, but overall, it's been a really positive start to the year, and it's been great. You can see that coming through in returns overall.
No, thanks, Chris. I think I don't think you've been too positive, actually.
No.
As part of my preparation for today, what I always do is I run my own portfolio in the background, but before this, just to see where I'm up. So my most aggressive, I've got a GIA, which is up 2.84% since the 1st of January. Other ones 2.31. So thrilled with the performance there. So thank you, Chris, to you and the team there. But I think there's despite lockdown, despite some of the negativity getting pushed, I do detect optimism really from a lot of people, and I think people looking forward to moving on. Be it across in the US, be it here in the UK. We've kind of got through some of the the noise from last year. Brexit's done. That yes, we're in the lockdown side of things, but the vaccination program certainly appears to be going excellently. Certainly compared to anybody else really in the world, it's going very well. As well. So there are some great kind of sentiments there, some great signs, I hope. Peter, as our political buff at True Potential, did you watch Wednesday's inauguration event?
Yeah, I did. I'm not even going to pretend I didn't. I had the TV on. I watched Trump leaving the White House and getting on his helicopter and his little event he did at the Air Force Base, and then I caught a bit of the Joe Biden coming in later on as well. So I did, yeah. It's I do find those days, whether it's in the UK or in the US, I mean, they are a bit fascinating. You do see that kind of transition of power. It's even quicker in the UK, where election happens the next day, out with the old, in with the new, within a couple of hours. Took a bit longer in the US, but they are historic moments, and I do find that a bit fascinating. So I did tune in.
David, I don't really know if I dare ask if you.
No, I didn't tune in. I watched it on the news, Daniel. It was fascinating. I think to Peter, we've got rid of what appears to be somebody who's clearly mentally retarded. I think the problem we've got with Trump is he's not completely sane. The biggest worry, of course, is that you have an entire nation asking to vote on somebody who is mentally deficient on one side, and somebody who's quite old and looks quite old as well. And my colleague said to me, so I think we can look forward to Kamala Harris being the first woman and a president within the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm glad I didn't say that. He said that. I'm not certain that's the case. I think what happens, as we can see, I think they can keep them. When Trump got the virus, much to everybody's delight, he very quickly recovered, strangely enough. So that gave me great hope, because I thought, well, there must be something knocking around in the chemical armory that at least gets people back out. And his willpower, of course, and his whole persona, which is in total denial of the reality of what the rest of the world is seeing is. One thing I have to say, right? There's this thing about the election was rigged, right? He's not the first to say that. You just go back, Hillary Clinton said it when she got voted out, right? Up to now, he's the only Republican in the last 10 years to say it. But there have been 4 Democrats in 4 elections where the Democrats are claiming that elections were rigged. The only difference is they eventually gave up the ghost. But when she was, her parting comments when she lost the race to contend was, the election was rigged. We need to get this sorted out. So I think they do need to get it sorted out. I think it is such a huge system and such a complicated thing. Perhaps it has been rigged. I doubt it. I think it just would be messy. So he's not the first. In fact, he's first really Republican to claim it. So once again, the media depends on the media slant, doesn't it? It really does depend on the media. The media hate him, which you can understand. I mean, I think he'd be a terrible person to like. I mean, you've got to be something seriously. Oh, sounds a bit controversial, but he's very easy to dislike. I always use my wife as the test bed for a lot of these things. Whatever she says she's going to be doing as a voter, or what her opinion is as a person, tends to bear out. Over the years, you just go to what's worked for you and just say to somebody, what do you think? And what she thinks tends to in the end come true. She's always hated him. I think he is a misogynist. I think he is all the things that they said, but it is Kamala Harris. I think she could be tricky. I mean, you don't know how these people get to the top, do you? And it's the same in Britain. You don't know how people who you've never heard of all of a sudden appear. But she seems to. I think I was pleased for her. Obviously, you can't help but be pleased for Joe Biden and his family because they've been at it for a long time. Whether you agree that the person should be a lifelong politician or lawmaker, as they would call them over there, and say that's a suitable set of criteria for president or prime minister. I have a severe question mark about that. I personally wouldn't have allowed me to vote when I was 20 or 25 or whatever. I just, was just a young person, I was even more naive than I am now. I would have thought, 30 would be the youngest I would ever vote.
Yeah, but I think you sometimes see some politicians, David, standing for office in their early 20s even. So there's that to me can always be more dangerous than even being allowed to vote younger. Is the fact.
I think so, Daniel. I think that what you're getting, you probably got is you've got the media. Okay, so whenever you don't get enough, we've seen, Chris has seen in his lifetime, the problem that comes from too few banks in the UK. So too big to fail. What you get is, and of course, the influence that those fewer people have, those few things have on political life and commercial life, and that is huge. You don't have much media, and the way that Trump tried to get around that media oligarchy really was to go to Twitter.
Yeah.
Now, here's the danger. The guy that's running Twitter, the guy that runs Facebook, they're very, very liberal. Now, they can be, of course. Now that they've made their money, all of a sudden, they're at Davos, and they're now telling us how we should live our lives. So, he's quite happy to have Trump supporters and everybody else twittering and Facebooking and all the rest of it away and making a fortune out of it. But when it was politically right for them, they switched Trump off. You can't have that.
No.
You can't have people saying, I don't agree, right? They wouldn't dare switch any of that off. They wouldn't dare do that, okay? Whether they agree with it or not, it's good business for them because it means that they're trendy and cool and woke and all these other things, which currently are in vogue, they're in fashion. And therefore, the same in this country, you need to expand the channels of communication so that the UK public can make their own mind up from the information that they're getting. A lot of, if you go, there are extreme examples in British media. The Channel 4 is an extreme example of biased news. BBC still is, although they've got a new Director General who's already picking off the clear. But that's a public service. I don't want somebody giving me their opinion about what I should be thinking on a public service. Okay, I can go to commercial channels for that because I know what I'm getting. But and the problem with that is that betrayal of trust. Once people stop trusting what they're hearing, you have a problem in a democracy. And in the US, of course, what you've seen is they've stopped trusting the Democrats, and they stopped trust. So I subscribe to. I get New York Times every day. I get the Spectator because in news I get the Spectator. I get the Times. I get the Telegraph. I just can't. I can't bear to read the Guardian. I get the Lexus, but honestly, it's just. They are so far away from my life and my brain and everything that I stand for and everything I think about humans that I just can't bear to listen to them, frankly. I can't bear to listen really to Channel 4 News. I do every now and then when I'm feeling, I think I shouldn't be feeling this good. You know, I feel guilty. I feel so lucky. I'm so happy. Let's turn on Channel 4 News and have Christian, you know, just saying, somebody asking somebody a question. What's 2 + 2? Oh, I think that's 4. Well, I asked you, what was 2 + 2 comes to 5, doesn't it? Am I right in saying 2? Why do you say that? And off he goes. You know, there's no. You've asked a question, you've got an answer. That's not the answer I wanted. Yeah. And Jon Snow with his silly socks, and he's absolutely. He was bad enough when he was a young man. Now he's a really grumpy, skinny old person. You know, who's really just wants. And of course, as we're seeing. You can do that if you're in London. All of the money in Britain has ended up in the southeast of England, not because those people are clever, they just happen to be there. It's geography. Geography, you know, explains a lot of the wealth in the world. You know, why isn't Africa, you know, wealthy? Bits of it are, a few people are, but you know, Europe because of geography and other things. London because of geography. You know, and the fact that political stuff has been there and the banks are there, all of a sudden there's a whole raft of 9 million people thinking somehow they're special and they've got more money than everybody else they have, and they've got property and they demand more money. But that elitism, that thinking is what, and it gets into, you don't need to spend as much time as Peter Bold talking with politicians, with everybody surrounding them. And there's a certain superiority and elitism about them. And I feel ever so special if somebody from Westminster comes to visit me in the northeast of England. It's a big thing for them. You know, they're venturing out into the great unknown to meet people. Whereas, you know, most of the time they spent attacking each other or getting people out of their backsides who are just sucking up to them, you know. And that comes out, and what you've got is when you've got a COVID crisis that we've had, you see that exposed. You know, you see Sadiq Khan going, boo-hoo, we should have some more money spent on London. Well, you know, you could not spend more money on London if you tried. You could not spend more money on infrastructure if you tried. The actual data is frightening. That's per person. That's not, you know, per person. The amount of money being spent there over the last 10, 20, 30 years is mind-boggling compared to the lack of money spent in the rest of the country. So, you know, anyway, we've got away from the problems in America to my hobby horse. And
No, but I think government spending's an interesting one, David. And Chris, we'll move back to you. We spoke a bit with Jeff last week about some of the stimulus packages which Biden's announced. Could you just maybe give a bit of a view on that and what it can mean?
Yeah, sure. You know, if we think of back to kind of early 2020, and basically people thought that actually Biden wasn't the stock market friendly candidate. So they saw Trump as the more business friendly president. And then what you saw probably, I guess, October time is a little bit of a reversal there, with the reality of the Democrats pushing for more stimulus, more support overall, meaning that investors were then favoring the Democrats. So they'd see a kind of growth impulse come through from that stimulus. So there's $1.9 trillion of stimulus that is potentially to be agreed upon right now. So they're talking about $1,400 checks to certain US individuals on top of the $600 checks that they've already received. Things such as minimum wage going up to $15 an hour. Right now, that's being received incredibly well by investors. You know, it's been one of the key drivers of stock markets overall. And, you know, why is that? If you think about it, what you've got is a huge pent-up demand. You know, if you look at the US economy, sort of 70% of it is services, 70% of it is consumption overall. And what you're seeing is very high savings rates. You know, I've experienced that. I'm sure potentially everyone else on the call's experienced that as well, because you know, there's nothing really to spend your money on. Yeah. So you see people are saving a lot of money. You've then got stimulus on top of that. So there's a huge potential for a growth impulse to come through once we get through that I guess, that short-term negativity of the various different sort of lockdowns, etc., that different people are under. So right now it's being taken as really, really positive by the market overall. I think initially there was maybe a little bit of worry around inflation coming through, and I think that is still there in the background. But the reality is, the environment that we're in, the belief is that inflation will be contained. The belief is that interest rates will stay low. The belief is that debt servicing costs are incredibly low. So although countries are going to have huge debt levels overall, it doesn't matter so much right now. So again, just probably building on what I was saying earlier, the stimulus is seen as really positive overall.
No, I agree. I think it has been received well, and you're echoing really what Jeff mentioned last week as well, Chris. So it's we always ask different views, of course. So it's good. Peter, in addition to obviously that package which Chris has been talking about there, Biden was busy on his first day as well, signing 10 executive orders.
I think he's up to 15 now, Dan, and he'll do a few more today. So he's cracking through them. Yes,
I saw he had his desk, didn't he, with all the folders. Then he had a massive box with loads of pens. So yeah. I was watching the news last night with my wife, with Gemma, and Gemma says, "Why has he got that many pens?" And I said, "I honestly can't tell you." I said, "I don't know."
Because he has to tuck every one signed uniquely with one pen. So every time he signs one, he puts the pen inside, closes the book, and off it goes. So there's it's a one trick thing. You sign it with one pen, and that pen never gets used again. Off it goes with the order. Yeah, that's why he's got. So if he's doing 17 orders, 17 pens.
Are you pulling my leg there? Is that true?
No. If you watch it back on the news, he pops the pen he's just signed it with inside the folder, closes the folder, and off it shoots.
Right.
So the pen goes with the order.
Every day is a school day. I can go in the kitchen after this now and tell Gemma that I've learned something new today from Mr. Peter Bould.
They probably put it on a frame somewhere in a cabinet, and the pen's probably alongside it. It's never to be used ever again. Okay. Don't know who came up with that idea, but
it's part of an inferiority complex. They probably think that they do that in Britain. They do something similar in Britain, so they'll do it bigger in America.
Yeah. Little they know, in Britain would just sign it with a biro and pass it around.
Yeah. You can imagine Boris saying, "Has anyone got a pen? I forgot. I'm just about to sign this trade deal, but I've forgotten me biro."
I know there was something I was supposed to be doing. I'll just do this thing. Oh yeah,
like, which pocket was it? Is it behind here? Yeah. He's been busy, and of course, that's all symbolism that all politicians do. Is my first 100 days. It's everything's around that, and of course, I mean, it was. I don't know. It was a little bit. I'm slightly in two minds on that, Daniel, because obviously in the campaign, when he was campaigning, he did this all on my first day. We'll join the WHO. We'll get back in the Paris Climate Agreement. I'll sign off face masks. I'll do all this. So he's done what he said he would do on the campaign trail. But when it was a little bit jarring for me, because I saw him stand up on his inauguration and say, "We're going to bring the country back together." And obviously 75 million people or thereabouts did vote for Trump. And of course, the first thing he did was repeal a load of Trump stuff. So it's, I suppose he's getting that stuff out the way early doors. But I just hope that for Joe Biden, he doesn't sort of suffer the same thing that Obama had, which is it's almost like a second coming. It's almost as if the guy's going to come in and everything's going to be so wonderful. And of course, you can get built up so big that it can only end in disappointment. And I hope it doesn't go that way. Everything I see on the news, everything I see on social media now is, the savior's arrived. And I'm sure he's an improvement. I don't deny that. But expectations can sometimes go a bit too high. That it can never, ever be lived up to. And I think he might just do well to try to just temper some of that a little bit, although he's got no incentive to do it, I suppose. And I agree with David. I think we're probably looking at a one-term president just because of his age. No reason why he shouldn't be president at 86, but I think he probably won't be. I think probably he does do one term. And I think you've hit on something there, David, where your friend might, or whoever it was who told you, there could be a transition in 4 years' time to Kamala Harris. It'd be interesting to see how that one goes. As I say, I think one other thing you touched on, David, that has been running through my mind is, and Chris is better placed to give us the economic review of Trump and how he did. But I would just say one thing, which is I think it was a huge missed opportunity, because politics is ripe for a different type of politician, ripe for disruption. And Trump could have been that person, and he was to a point, but he made a huge mess of it. He was far too extreme. He just divided the entire country. But Joe Biden is the political elite. He's been around Washington for decades.
Yeah.
And he's not new. He was vice president for 8 years. He's been on the scene for decades, as I say. You know what you're going to get with him. I feel that's the problem with politics, is it's the same people who've been to the same 2 or 3 universities, who've got the same 2 or 3 degrees, who think the same 2 or 3 ways, but broadly exactly the same. Too much groupthink.
No,
and that's I sort of a bit disappointed. That's my disappointment on the Trump thing, that he was the wrong person to do that. He was far too maverick, far too narcissistic, but a different type of politician. And Joe Biden is not that.
No, yeah, I think as David had mentioned earlier, I think Joe Biden spent his entire life wanting to become president. If you just read about him, Trump. I think when you probably look back on history now, if it wasn't for coronavirus, Trump would have probably been voted back in. I think with some of the mess made of it that him and his government made of it in the United States, but I think that also accelerated his brand of extremism from there. I think he's always been an extreme fella, but I think we see some of it in the UK right now. I think for the level of polarization which has gone on, I think, which is just accelerated by either we're doing a great job with COVID here and how we're dealing with it in the UK, or we're doing a terrible job, and you just need to read. I know social media isn't always the best test, but you just need to read on there as a bit of a litmus test to see the extremism going on, and as more so in the United States. And as you say, 75 million people voted for Trump just a month ago, so support him still. So, it was incredibly tight, and hopefully some of that extremism will go down. But you're right. I think when he did get voted in, you would have hoped maybe that open up a door for a new type of politician. But it's closed, and I wonder if we've missed that opportunity now.
I think we have, and I think there's no doubt. I mean, he's completely finished. I know he's talking about a comeback, but I think he will get impeached this time round. I think the Republicans will want to distance themselves from him, so I think they will support that in the way that they didn't a few months ago, and that probably bars him then from office ever returning. So I think that's him done, which is maybe no bad thing. Although I don't know, I don't sort of subscribe to this. He was 100% all bad. I'm sure that he always claims that the economy in America did do much better under him. I mean, Chris, you're far better placed than me to say whether that was down to anything he had anything to do with, or whether it actually happened at all. But
yeah, I mean, just quickly, I just had a quick look there. Now, if you look at, say, how the US, so Trump used to think about how well his presidency was doing by looking at the US stock market relative to other areas. So if it was doing very well, he saw that as a barometer of him personally doing very well. And if you look back over 4 years, US stock market's done plus 45. You compare that to Europe, you're looking at Europe's down. Let me just find the number. In fact, Europe's done about plus 24. So you got a significant outperformance there. Trump did do things like come in, cut taxes, but the reality is you've got someone who's in some ways such a volatile figure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the interesting thing for me is the fact that Trump didn't attend Biden's inauguration. The first president since I think it's 1869 not to do that. If you get a chance, there's a spitting image sketch of Donald Trump leaving the White House, and he puts mouse traps in all the drawers and a bucket of water on top of the door. It's quite funny to watch.
Is that the spitting image one, or is that the real one? Because you wouldn't honestly put it. You wouldn't know, would you?
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's just to me. Again, Peter, you were saying about will Trump come back, and I don't know. He might come back, but I just think the way he's left is just so far from being gracious that It's incredible.
Absolutely, but he won't come back. I don't think he's. I think he's done as any kind of elected politician. He'll do something because you can't keep someone like him, a narcissist like Donald Trump, isn't going to sit quietly in Mar-a-Lago for the next however many years. He'll do something. But you say that, but then again, he has it. You can't deny the fact that the guy has a massive following. The 75 million people we've talked about. Okay, there wasn't many there at the Air Force Base when he was saying his goodbye, apart from his own family. But that is something that Joe Biden's got to address, which is 50% of the country, or 49.9% of the country, didn't vote for him, and he's going to have to reach out to them and do something about that, because it is a hugely divided country. Having said that, by the way, I think, David, you made the point that the reason why other Democrats in the past and have contested elections is because elections are always. When was the last time there was an absolute landslide in a presidential election? And they're always fairly close, 49-51. So I suppose everyone's got to deal with it. I think Joe Biden will do a good job by it. I think he will reach out to that side. I think he will be much more on the international stage. We can debate, and we will, whether that's a good thing or not. I think we will get a trade deal. I think part of Joe Biden being much more, if you like, open overseas will lend itself to that kind of trade deal, and just being much more international. Whether it's a good deal or not, again, we'll talk about that in the future when it materializes. By the way, if I can just put a plug in, because the new edition of True Insight, which Chris has helped us do, is going to be landing on advisors and clients' doorsteps in the next few days, next week or so. And there's a wonderful piece in there looking ahead to what we can expect, and just a couple of articles around Joe Biden and the incoming administration, as well as an interesting piece around how True Potential is reflecting on our how we've kind of managed over the last 12 months and got through the crisis to emerge stronger. So a little plug there. When it drops on the doormat, do give it a read.
Some of the stuff he did. For 30 years, I've been talking about moving the capital of Israel to Jerusalem. He just came in and did it.
Yeah.
He just did it. Because the reality are that there's one bunch of people who can actually run a government there, and on either side of them, there are a bunch of people who can't. Right? And that if that's the kind of president he was. He probably didn't think too deeply about it. Like a lot of Americans, he probably thought, Jerusalem was like some part of New England. And what's those Israelis doing up in New England? Yes, I'm saying that. Whatever. I'm not saying he's that stupid, but he was pretty stupid, Donald, wasn't he? I mean, it's a stupid name, by the way, isn't it? I think that's a silly name. No wonder he's in a bad mood, or he does nasty things with a name like Donald Trump.
Don't tell Duck that.
That's right, Cockadoodle Don.
David, you mentioned, you were just talking there about international trade and all this, and Chris, you mentioned in your piece at the start about you talked about sterling in the UK on the back of a trade deal. What trade deal were you talking about?
So just on the back of the deal that we came to, the negotiations, I should have maybe said, just was that at the end. Was that between UK?
Oh, you mean the one between the UK and the EU? That's the one. Because the last time I was on the podcast, and probably everyone before that, we had a bit of a bet. I think, Daniel, you might have been involved in this as well, about whether we'd actually get a trade deal or not. And I think I did stick to my guns and say we would, and in the face of a huge amount of opposition. So what happened, Chris? Just remind us, because I missed it.
So there was a trade deal between the UK and the EU. So there was. There was.
What was? I thought I heard you right.
I can't remember what I said actually. I'm sure I said a moot deal, maybe.
A deal. Deal's a deal.
Yeah.
Good. What do I
Chris, you're not the target. Don't worry. You don't need to be.
You're just the judge, Chris, but I'm the jury. So that
skirt around the issue.
That sounds like I won that bet.
You could argue. We could talk about is the deal worth anything.
I want to recount.
Hello,
I think it was
Donald.
rigged.
Here we go. We've got Donald and Donald Jr. It was rigged. Here we go.
I want to recount.
Just you went like on Twitter.
Postal vote.
Yeah.
Well, Twitter will ban you. You'll be off Twitter.
Postal trade deal. They don't count postal trade deals. Yeah, I'm pleased we got a trade deal, Peter. I didn't believe that we would, and I didn't believe that in the end Boris would cave in. But I should have known better that. Oh, mate, I'm not going to be rude. We have a semblance of a trade deal for a small part of our economy, for a trade deal for 100% of our fishing economy, which is 0.1% of our economy overall. So well done. Well done. I was really worried about those fishermen.
Who don't seem very happy.
They
don't seem happy at all. I was watching the news the other night and they were open arms, the fishermen, just glossed over it a little bit. But if you're saying that's what the trade deal is all about, it hasn't worked for them so far. Have you not had your letter, David, or your phone call? Because
I haven't.
We're, in this part of the world, we're getting through them, aren't we?
I'm going to let you into a little secret, right? My wife come rushing through yesterday. Go, look, you've got a letter. Look, it looks like an official letter, right? You opened it up, and it was my driving license. Now, what you might know is this. What I didn't know is this, right?
You didn't have one before.
I didn't have one.
I was just joking. I didn't know you were going to say.
No, I know. I know you were just joking. I haven't had one since July last year when I became 70. What you've got to do is you've got to send away for another one. So I'll let you, once again, into a little secret. I happened to pick up a little bit of a speeding fine whilst on business. Whilst on business, I was rushing around on business, and I picked up from one of those damn cameras. They're still working. They haven't gone on furlough, right? The little fellas that sit inside the camera snapping yours. Them so-and-sos that sit in backs of vans and have peas pudding sandwiches and cups of coffee and whatever, and take photographs of people. They're still around. So I sent away to get I was thinking, oh, good, I'll get a speeding awareness course. That would be quite good. Good way to speed, just socially distance, of course. But I didn't get one of them. They just give us the £100 fine and send your license off. And asking for the paper license. Now, well, I sent that off once before, and it didn't come back. So I was thinking, well, that'll be all right. But last time that you and I corresponded, Mr. Speeding fine person, I did send my paper license off, and it never came back. So I had to try it on the web to do this. In the end, they said, take a photo of your plastic license, which I did, send that off. And Julie came back and said, we've put 3 points on your license and so on and so forth. If you want to check, go on the website and check on this. So nothing better to do, I'll go and check. Type of license, no license.
Does that mean you've got to take a test again, David?
Yeah.
Have you got to do a parallel park and a reverse round a corner?
I can do all those things, A little known fact, I am an advanced driver. We did for a short period of time, as Daniel knows, teach people how to drive in challenging conditions, going backwards at 60, 70 miles an hour and doing all that kind of stuff, and so on and so forth, running people over, ramming cars, all that kind of thing, So I wouldn't be worried about I would worry about taking a test, but just in case I didn't pass it. But it's what it turned out is at age of 70, you've got to apply for a new license. So I've been driving all this time on emergency business, without a license. They did give you 8 months because of COVID, like that with your fingers, without. You got 8 months to do something about it. I mean, why you need 8 months to do something about it? You can just do on the. Anyway, I sent away, and I got a new one. Bad news is, if I wanted to have to be able to drive a minibus with up to 15 passengers in it, I can't do that. I've got to I've got to apply the paper form for that. Right? So if you just want the quick and easy one, you can just drive. I can just drive my 724 brake horsepower Bentley Continental GT. I can drive that, but
with 15 people stacked in the back seat and in the boot.
Yeah, at least. But I can't drag a trailer along behind this. I can't do that. That's it. So I'm back legally. So I didn't get what I was hoping for, which is let us say, can you go somewhere distant? I think I'll go to the centre of life. I think that's where I'll be. And I already know when I go to the centre of life, your appointment is 10 o'clock. So I'll get there at 9:45. There'll be a queue a mile long with a bunch of people who normally queue in an EasyJet flight. Get there early and push to the front and stand. And it only happens in Newcastle. I'm not having to go with the rest of the EasyJet passengers throughout. But in Newcastle, if you were, I stopped being one of those EasyJet special people. You pay a little bit extra to get to the front of the plane or whatever, because you might get a black eye before you get on, because people are going, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm a so ma, get to the back.
Speedy border.
Speedy border. So
EasyJet Plus member. You get
one of them. Yeah, even in the queues. When you got the big queues, haven't you, in the morning? Oh, they've been queuing since whatever. They haven't gone to bed. Obviously, they're so excited. Where we're going? Them? Is it time for holidays, Mum? Ah, yes. You get to bed, pet. I don't think I can. Sound like somebody from Sunderland. I don't think I can sleep tonight, Mum. Well, don't. Here's a Greg's pasty to go to bed with, and some pop, right? I don't want to hear any nonsense during the night. We've got to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, mind, to get down for that 8 o'clock flight. There. What's this? This way, that way, that way. Oh, there's the bar. I'll have 10 pints, right? And I'll get to the front of the queue before people, the EasyJet super border.
Well, it may be bad news for you if you're queuing for vaccinations, David. I was reading last night that the North East leads the way in terms of vaccinations in the country. We've vaccinated more people than anywhere else.
That's right.
Unfortunately, it's so successful now. They're saying they're probably going to divert vaccine resource to other places now. So like down to Chris in London and things like that.
Which is synonymous, Daniel. You're running a very successful business, right? Parts of the business work better than others. What we do is, as a business, we try something, and if it works, we put resource behind it.
Yeah.
We don't spend 3 years working out in theory on a whiteboard or on a spreadsheet, might it work versus this versus that. We get fairly quickly to the point of saying, I think, for example, impulse save will work. Let's try it. It's working. Let's put resource. It's working. Let's do more of it. It's even working. Let's do even more of it.
Yeah.
What we wouldn't do. So we've got this thing where somebody writes something with a quill pen on a piece of paper, and then they use a stagecoach to deliver it to a client. That's not working very well. Right. Take the money from what's working. Take the money from, because 47% per head of population in Northumberland, the northeast of England, right, are vaccinated. There's only 20% of people 22% in London. Oh, take the money now from that, take the vaccines from that, because it must be that they're nicking the vaccines all the way up to wherever. Let's put them back to where they came from in the first place, London, right? And all that will happen, by the way, there'll just be big queues of vaccines, right, with nobody jabbing people in the arm. Look around Britain and you'll see areas where you've got civil obedience and you've got people who, in the main, play the game throughout this pandemic. Play the game, because they have a regard for other people and other people's safety and their own. You're quite right, Daniel. I've probably gone back as a result of.
No, I was just doing it last night. I was just shaking my head. I just thought, This is a shocker. I know that you're saying, well, we've got to spread resource around the country accordingly, but if it's working really well, just do more of it. So you could say, well, quite rightly then, the entire Northeast, we've hit the vaccination target there then,
Yep.
you know, great. No, don't slow it down. You haven't hit your target here yet. You haven't vaccinated every over 70 and every group 1 to 4.
It's a form of communism, right? It's a form of socialism. That everybody's got to be as poor as everybody else. You can't excel. I have no idea why the Northeast would be ahead of other people. I know we've got some of the best hospitals in the UK. We've got some of the best medical research in the UK. Some of the best. Certainly not some of the worst. People do work hard and are very diligent, I think, throughout the UK. But for some reason, the Northeast stands out for these things. I've no doubt that we would be better. Just take it seriously.
Yeah.
You know, the downside is people go, better get there early. You know, well, you don't really need to. You know, getting there early means that I'll be pushing my way through, saying, is it all right if I just go in because I'm now 10 minutes late because of you silly old buggers, right? Most of which are younger than me, you know. For some of them, it's a day out. For me, it's like, let's get this job. By the way, if you just send it in the post, okay, I promise, like my plastic driving license, I promise to cut it in half and send it back to Swansea. You know, because that was the thing. To get a new one, what you've got to do is cut your old one in half. You're joking. You know, the last thing I sent you, I've never heard. You know, I've sent him a paper one ages ago. It's disappeared. I'm not sending out the plastic one, even though that plastic one doesn't count. The new one, by the way, Peter, you'll be pleased to know, doesn't have the old EU stars. You know, the blue with it. Doesn't have. It just has the Union flag on it, not the Union Jack. The Union flag on it. So, yeah, you know,
I feel better knowing that. Have you got your blue passport yet?
Yeah, I do have a blue passport. Yeah, you know.
But is that the one you kept from the 1970s or whatever, or is it a new one?
No. It's a new one. It's very, very nice.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, you need one of those. You know, if possible, right? Because it's got boarding. Oh, Dan's got one as well.
It's my son. It's Chester.
You put it inside a very, very nice leather passport holder, and if possible, you can put that inside a very, very nice travel bag, which will just be something else to get in the way. Because I normally, much to everybody else, you'll get that passport stolen out your back pocket, and you think, no, I won't. Same as my phone. No. Anybody touches my bottom, I'm aware of it. Right? I'm not looking for people to touch me arse. I've got things in there, and because they're there, I know they're there. So despite my wife trundling around with a bag about this big, you know, it's like I'm going in and you get like a diving vest ready, you know, and she gets lowered into a bag with a crane, and has a look around and goes, oh, and it's like, what have you done with my passport, David? You think, well, yeah, it would be me, you know. Like the water this morning, it's me. What I did during the night, I got up during the night and went down and tinkered with the boiler outside. Came back in just so my wife couldn't have a shower this morning. So I was late for the podcast. That's apologies.
Well, I think it's probably a good time to wrap up, David, and let you get back to fixing the boiler.
You'll have to wrap up if the boiler's not working.
Yes.
I've sent away for a central heating engineer. I have sent off for one of them. I didn't do it on the internet. I think my wife did it by screaming down the phone. You know, when you hear the last time, this, you know, you're supposed to fix this. So anyway, when they get there, she goes, would you like a cup of tea? It's cold out there, isn't it? How's it going? How's the wife? Would you like a cup of tea? Can I bring you some cakes or biscuits and things like this? So I'm the only one who gets the bollocking, not the central heating engineer that's dropped the bollock. I'm I'm the intermediate. I'm like, our IFAs, they get caught in between the client and us,
Well, good luck.
Yeah. Can we not just talk a little bit longer?
We just carry straight through till next week. Just David will get slightly David will get slightly colder by the end. His teeth will be chattering.
Well, I know it's a problem because I haven't had a cup of tea come through. So I know I'm kind of not on the I'm on the naughty steps.
Good. Right, well, we'll wrap up. So, Peter, Chris, David, thank you very much, gentlemen, for today. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us and our antics in between the US elections as well. So, thanks, everybody. Please do like this video if you liked it. Please do subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content as well. Have a lovely weekend, everybody, and look forward to seeing you soon. Cheerio for now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the True Potential YouTube channel. If you have any questions or requests for future videos, let us know in the comments.